Okay, let's go. We got a video for a banger. This is a legit banger. This is called the KIWI EARS AETHER. I believe that's what it is. It is a large planar in-ear monitor. I've seen a couple other sets that go back. I saw Mike's video of the Sivga. So there's other 15.3s. This is saying it's got N52 multi-layer magnet, so it's got a bigger magnet stack potentially. It's a larger planar, the membrane with the etches on the inside. It's in a beautiful shell. So I don't know if this is new or a new version of that previous driver, but it sounds fantastic to me. If you're a new subscriber, go ahead and comment below. If you're a subscriber in general, go ahead and comment below, and I'm going to send this to somebody that subscribes and comments. Give the video a thumbs up if you actually like it. And I'm going to send it with a little amp DAC from FiO that came with a set of headphones that I've already reviewed, but I'll post up that video later. But I have lots of little amp DACs, so you can get this set, which I think is probably the best planar you can get at any price range, and that. Now that phrase I just said used to be tagged on the S15, which wasn't nearly the most expensive, but I think dollar for dollar, and just overall sound quality, it's probably about as good as you can get. The tuning, just the whole thing I thought sounded fantastic. I think this is a little bit better than that. I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the price of this was, because I'm not going to reach out to them, because when they're ready, and this isn't even listed yet. But I figured out just by chance that the blurb in, this is what? Firefox, it actually says it right here. Multi-layered N52 neodymium magnets, $169.99 out of stock. So in the blurb, it's there. So it's $170, which is $50 to $60 less than the S15, which is a lot of money when we're talking about that. We're talking like 25 to 30% of the total value of the IM is the difference between the S15 and the KIWI EARS, and they're very, very close in sound quality. I think that the new one's better, but new item bias, minus that, and then calculate that it's a $50 difference between the two sets. And yeah, I'm comfortable with saying I think this is the better set. It's definitely more a better investment of your money, because see, you're saving $50 on something that's an apple to apples type of thing. If you really listen hard and you can really find the difference, good for you. There's a couple points where I think that this is a little bit better, and I AMB'd the S15 using the head amp 6. I use this like a OCD is a real thing. Yeah, you can adjust using a 400. I won't get into that. Let's go ahead and start. I think in the low end, the 808 Roland, which is, you hear the term 808 drops. It comes from that Roland kit. You can actually take it around with you, and ask your producer or DJ for a beat, or mix up a beat, or play one that was sent to you. It's a critical piece of kit, particularly through the late 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, still to this day. And Kendrick Lamar that I'm listening to now, I'm pretty sure it's part of his, everybody in California, a lot of those guys. DJ Mustard, I'm sure, has got an 808 Roland laying around. Wu-Tang Clan, Public Enemy, really everybody, DITC, digging in the crates, all of that, they all use this instrument. Sounds good on the Aether. It's got, the drops go deep, it sounds nice, it sounds clean. I thought that this album, which is that one over there, GNX, sounded fantastic on this set. I liked it a lot. I did break out the S15 and I did direct comparisons. I did comparing them and listening A and B, which doesn't really do anything, and then I take one and put in the left ear and the other and put in the right ear, because I'm using cables that are exactly the same on two, because I do this all the time, and they've been adjusted to the same output at 77 dB at 450 hertz. So I'm really doing apples to apples in my mind and in my ears, and then listen and then switch ears, because sometimes it seems like my right ear is more dominant. The listening tests don't really bear that out. I feel like it is. I'm right-handed. I think that my right ear is better. I thought that the Aether, directly compared to the S15, sounded better. Again, it's a new item, so consider that. The bass guitar, the plucks, the pulls, the releases, the ringing of the string, I thought that that instrument sounded fantastic on this. I thought that it sounded great on the S15 as well. There wasn't really a difference there. The difference in the low end is the next part, which is Bonham's kick drum. Boom, tsh, boom, 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 tsh. This graphs are sometimes confusing. This graph, if we line this up, it's the same mic, so any differences or variations or inefficiencies or deficiencies would apply to both of these measurements. It gives the S15 just a teeny little bit in the 100 to 250, 300, but it sounds the opposite. It sounds like the Aether actually sounds, maybe that's the pressure relief valve doing something right there, but it sounds like the Aether has a more potent bass drum or a kick drum. So overall in the low end, I think they're both good sets, but the kick drum clearly to my left ear and to my right ear, while listening to the other set in the opposite ear. So I got the Aether in my left and the S15 in my right, or vice versa. I thought that in both scenarios, the KIWI Ears sounded better than the S15, which I think is up till now my favorite set. As we move into the mids, which is our sensory vocals, remember, elevations in this area can do a lot of damage to female vocals, and it can impact male vocals. It gives a huskiness, kind of heats up the vocals. So this is one bookend, and then on the other you've got the upper mids ear gain rise, which is the other bookend. And how much you manipulate either one of those greatly impacts the quality of vocals, which is why I really talk about vocals and not really mids so much, because it applies to everything. But with vocals it's most clear, and my library contains almost all vocals except for Verdi, Vivaldi, and Tchaikovsky. Besides that, everything. I don't listen to soundtracks or anything like that. Everything needs vocals. This, like the S15, sounds really, really nice for vocals. There isn't really a clear difference between the two right here. The only difference so far that I can really pick up is the kick drum sounded better on this set than on the S15. So I think that Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, Nina doing the cover of Blondie, and I always cite those, so for reference you can go back. I thought they all sounded excellent. The speed of Planar's benefits vocals in the sense that if there is a little bit of extra mid bass, it doesn't quite have the deterioration of the mids that a dynamic driver might have, particularly of a mid or lower quality type. Planars do really good right here. As we move into the next part, the final part, which is really harmonics and overtones. Again, if you're new to my channel, knock on the table. My knuckle striking the table creates the sound. It's the fundamental moment, and it's a split second. That you see it on. I might put up the image. It's just a burst of energy, but it tails off for a long time. 90% of it is the harmonics and overtones, which is the noise audible and then inaudible actually at some points, but still existing, that is created by that event. The stick striking the cymbal, ride or crash, the finger plucking off of a bass guitar string, the pick pulling on a string of an electric or an acoustic with or without distortion pedals. Those events, those moments create sound that exists for a second or up to two or much, much longer than the initial event. That's what overtones are, and that's why when you look at a frequency response graph, the event might occur essentially like, let's say we measured before on this channel a ride crash or a ride cymbal, and it's right around the stick where it strikes is around, I believe, 5 to 650. You can isolate the tsh sound and nothing else. And then if you move beyond that, it goes all the way up to 6, 7, 8 and beyond, and all of that energy is the cymbal vibrating and creating noise. That is the harmonics and overtones of the fundamental event. And this is where a lot of stuff fails, where it's a little too, it sounds etchy, it sounds edgy, it sounds tizzy, it's got problems with all kinds of instruments, or maybe even vocals. That's why when you have a boost in the end, remember, sound over time decays. If I make that sound that was loud at the beginning and then quickly tailed off, all of the sounds created in music that I listen to, and music in general, and how sound works, acoustic science, is it, as it goes across the time scale from left to right, it falls away in decibels and measurements of amplitude, because it goes away. When you take later portions of the frequency response graph and you boost it up over, let's say, the upper mids, you're kind of giving an unnatural extension to things like cymbals, vocals. That jumps out at people's ears immediately, and they say, that sounds unnatural. It might sound good for a short period of time, and it might simply sound good because it sounds different, but it's a fatiguing type of listen, and it is also unnatural. A lot of targets that go back to the Harman, which has been ditched, and others, they have a hill that falls off and goes down, because music, sound does that. It doesn't go the other way and scale up. Start from the 2K region, go to 8, and then spike up. It's not really how it works, and that tuning sounds a little bit strange. Having said that, the Shure S15 has that late spike. Again, inaccuracy, and I never did pick it up on that, so that's not a ding. So let me go ahead and rank this. Dumbest of fire, obviously not. Hope was free. For you watching right now, if you're a subscriber, it might be. Coping is working. No, not a coping, but I couldn't figure out what the price was, and I really thought it's better than the S15, but if they came out and said this is $300, I was going to say, okay, what a missed moment that was. That's why I didn't do this video yesterday or today, because I didn't know the price, and it's a big difference. If this is more than the S15, I'll tell you to stick with the S15. This is $50 less than the S15, I'm telling you to go with this one. Now, I had to know the price. I figured it out by looking at that. Oh, that just fell off of the... That's me from pounding on the table. That's the front mount for the functioning 2-inch subwoofer. So if this was the same price, I'd say stick where you're at. If this was more, I would say they missed the boat here. But it's $50 less, so I would definitely wreck this one. So I would buy it. It does compete with its peers. I'm going to shamelessly hype it. I'm going to put this in a video of a bracket with Planars, because I've done so many Planar wars. So yeah, I'm going to shamelessly hype it. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll leave it at that. So this is how it went. I listened to it. I thought it was good. I took out the S15 because it's my reference, and then I compared it, and I adjusted both of these sets so that they're putting out. You can't just put stuff in your ear and turn it up and think, okay, that sounds about right. That's absolutely crazy. That defeats the whole purpose of it. If you're going to try to have somewhat objective based and then subjective through your ear and opinion in your mouth of data, you got to try to make some comparisons here. So compare these two, outputting at 77 dB measured on an app on my pad with my mic plugged into it, and then these going into it using the left and right same cable, so they have the same impedance right there. But anyway, if you're measuring 77, it's gonna doesn't make a difference, because you're literally adjusting it. I can adjust right there. I thought that this was particularly noticeable when it came to the kick drum. It had a thump and a force that the S15 doesn't have, and the more I think about it, the more I think that pressure relief valve thing that they're using actually does impact right there, because that's where this sounded clearly better, clearly more thump and more slam, more like that very produced moment, whereas most everything else sounded quite similar. The kick drum is one, and the price of $50 cheaper. When we're talking about a $250 set, we're talking about 20% difference in price and better build, actually. So if you got the S15 and you love it and you're not looking for another Planar, just stay where you are. If you're thinking I should have grabbed that, well, wait, you better wait and check some reviews on this, because I think they did a better job with this actually. Now, the driver being 15.3 millimeter and larger, I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, but it is a larger driver, and it does have the magnets, and I believe all of what they're saying. The attributes and the reason that why it sounds better, I think personally is more to do with the fact that the S15 has that kind of a PR, pressure release valve type of setup, which I guess is good because I love the set, but it's impacting the mid bass a little bit when you're comparing it with a set that's good like it but doesn't have that. That's the only difference between the two that I can come up with. There's no other reason that this should sound like it's got more thump than the Let's Shure S15. But as a guy like me with Kendrick's new album and the library that I listen to, that's a big deal to me. So I would wreck the Ether genuinely, and I would buy it. The S15 is no slouch. And when I do the bracket, it's going to be, it'll probably come down. I got to figure out a way not to put these on opposite sides, because it's going to end up being between this and the S15 likely, which would be a total waste of time. So yeah, I'll figure that out. Anyway, you guys have a great couple days. I'll see you on Wednesday. I got the Omega Ears, I think it's called, Alpha Omega Raw Beryllium driver, all branded drivers also, Sony and etc. Very stoked to try that out. You guys have a great couple days, and I will see you probably on Wednesday, and I'm out.